Hello everyone, welcome back to CAing. I am CA Sandeep Pagawa, and in today's video discussion, we'll try to quickly prepare a statutory checklist of various labor laws. Firstly, we'll begin with the Payment of Bonus Act 1965, followed by West Bengal Profession Tax Act, and the remaining labor laws, example gratuity, PF, etc. We'll see in our forthcoming videos. So before I begin with the discussion, I just want to have one or two general conversations. Firstly, I would like to have a conversation regarding as to how the non-compliance affects the statutory auditors, and the other point is how the non-compliance affects the preparation of the balance sheet and P&L by the management. The first point, how it affects the statutory auditors. In this case, we'll of course take our guidance to standards on auditing, and there's a standard SA 250, that is consideration of laws and regulations in an audit of financial statements. Now this essay tells us that due to the non-compliance of law and regulations, if there is a material misstatement of financial statements, then in such a case, the auditor has to respond or report accordingly. For example, there might be inadequate provisioning of the penalty, interest, or the tax amount that the entity has to incur in the forthcoming years. If there is inadequate provision, then the auditor has to use his professional judgment as to whether the non-compliance is leading to a material misstatement or not. This was the first point, and the second general discussion is as to how it would affect the preparation of the balance sheet and the P&L. Now friends, in India's regime, we know that in case of prior period errors, we have to I'm just getting the word material again and again. We'll have to retrospectively restate our books of accounts. Okay, in case of prior periods, we have to retrospectively restate our books of accounts. Now let's say, and this non-compliance of law would be treated as a prior period error. Let's take with the example, in financial year 1920, there was a demand order of rupees 5 lakhs pertaining to financial year 1920 and the last 4 years. That is 1 lakh each for the 5 years penalty demand order I have got in financial year 1920. Now the standards, or when we prepare the financial statements for financial year 1920, we will account only 1 lakh in the P&L as an expense, and accordingly 1 lakh each in the last 4 years will restate the P&L and account 1 lakh each in the last 4 years too. So this is one of the major change that the non-compliance can lead to in India's regime. And of course, when there is a restatement of financial statements, we need to prepare 3 balance sheets. That is, we need to report the 3 balance sheets. That is, in this case, balance sheet we will be giving as on 31/3/20, 31/3/2019, and as on 1/4/2018. Now friends, we move forward and look at our first act, that is Payment of Bonus Act 1965. सबसे पहले हम इसका applicability देखते हैं. Who are the categories of employers that need to pay bonus? Point number 1, liability for bonus. Every factory. The other one is every other establishment in which 20 or more persons are employed on any day during an accounting year. So कोई भी और establishment जिसमें 20 या उससे ज़्यादा persons employ हो गया on any day, then also the act would apply. That is, और एक बार जो act लग गया, then it would be applicable for all. अगर मेरा कोई भी year का कोई भी दिन में अगर मेरा 22 employees हो गया, भले ही मेरा अब next year या फिर उसी साल में 20 से नीचे that is 15-16 employees भी हो गया, तब भी मेरा act हमेशा ही लगेगा. एक बार लग गया तो हमेशा के लिए हम bound हो जाते हैं इस act से. Now the act also gives certain exemptions, that is to certain class of employers की जहाँ पे वो act नहीं लगता है. We'll just quickly go through. I have not discussed it here. I'll just discuss it orally. Number 1 class of employees is employees of RBI, LIC, educational institutions, financial institutions, institutions established not for earning profit, and the public sector if subject to certain conditions. So broadly what we can say, my friends, is that the act would apply to individuals, HUFs, AOP, BOI, private limited companies, and public sector companies. If they fulfill a certain condition, then only the act would apply. Otherwise, the public limited companies are kept out of scope. So what is the condition attached to the public limited company? The act says कि if the public limited companies sells or renders services in competition with the private sector, and the income from such sale or rendering of services that is in competition with the private sector exceeds 20%, then the act would apply to the public sector as well. There's a cushion, then indirectly what we can say is there's a cushion limit of 20% to the public sector companies. If they sell goods or services in competition with the private sector to less than 20% of their gross income, then the act would not apply. Okay? So first, point number one, liability for bonus is discussed. We move forward to point number two. Who are the persons entitled to bonus? The act says every employee, provided he has worked in that establishment for not less than 30 working days and on a salary or wage not exceeding rupees 21,000 per month. For the purpose of computation of employees, for the purpose of computation of number of employees, will not look into consideration कि हम लोग का employee का salary क्या है. एक बार 20 हो गया, then the act would apply. But out of those employees who are entitled to bonus, number one, he should have worked in that establishment for not less than 30 days. Number two, his salary or wage should not be exceeding 21,000 per month. Then only he'll be entitled to bonus. Now let's see point number three, disqualification of bonus. So the categories of employees who has been dismissed from service for fraud, for violent behavior, for harming the property of the establishment. So these categories of employees will not be entitled to bonus. So we'll move forward and discuss what is the meaning of salary or wage for the purpose of bonus act. Because we need to look all those persons for which 21,000 ka limit ke liye we need to know the salary or wage. So we'll just look at meaning of salary or wage. For the purpose of bonus act, salary or wage means broadly I can say is basic pay. It does not include any other overtime expenses. Broadly we can say it is basic pay plus DA plus retaining allowance plus cash compensatory allowance. These four, and point number 5, I've discussed it by way of note. It relates to food allowance. Let's give an example for food allowance for better understanding. Suppose the terms of a contract are like, if the terms of the contract of the employment are like, the employee would receive rupees 5,000 monthly as salary, irrespective of whether he takes a lunch in the office or not. Let's assume further that lunch costs the employer 2,000 per month. So the employee, even he opts for the free food service, he would get rupees 5,000 as his salary, and even if he does not opt, then also he will get 5,000 as salary. Then in this case, the 2,000 that he opts, let's say fooding cost, would not be added to the salary or wage. But if the terms of the contract are like, if you have free lunch in the office, you would get 3,000, else you get 5,000. So suppose, let's say the employee opts for the free lunch, that is getting 3,000 as basic pay. In this case, 2,000 the free food allowance would also be added. So broadly what we can say, the salary or wage for the definition for the purpose of bonus act, basic pay, DA, retaining allowance, cash compensatory allowance, free food allowance if it is not a substitute. If it's a substitute for salary. So after looking at the salary or wage, we move forward to the minimum bonus that an employee is entitled to. The employee, he would get the minimum bonus that the employee should receive, that eligible employees, that is who has worked for 30 days and with salary of less than 21,000, the eligible employees would be entitled to a minimum of 8.33% of the salary or wage. That is, salary or wage has been discussed just now, what all it includes. So the eligible employees always entitled to a minimum of 8.33% of the bonus of the salary. And the act further says, if salary or wage exceeds 7,000, the bonus would be restricted to the salary. Rather, I would say bonus would be computed as if his salary is rupees 7,000 only. We'll understand it by an example of, let's say, I've given 3 examples. First one is for employees earning 25,000, not entitled to bonus. 5,000, you get a minimum of 5,000 into 8.33%. The employee who is earning 15,000, he would get a minimum bonus of 7,000 into 8.33%. That is, for the purpose of bonus, the salary would be restricted to rupees 7,000 no matter how much his income exceeds. And the act also prescribes a maximum bonus. It says 20% of the salary or wage would be the maximum bonus that the employee would be entitled to, and the same 7,000 limit also applies in this case as in minimum bonus. Now friends, we move forward and look at the procedure for calculation of bonus. As per section 13, where an employee has not worked for all the working days in an accounting year, the minimum bonus shall be proportionately reduced. That is, if an employee has not rendered service for half the working days, then his bonus would be reduced proportionately by 50%. There are few exceptions as to wherein the service period in which he did not render his service will not be reduced. First one is when he has been laid off under Industrial Disputes Act 1947. That is, the employer himself does not have adequate raw material facilities, or there is breakdown in machinery for which the employee has been kept out of service. So this service period will not be taken into account, or rather considered for reduction in bonus. Number two is he has been on leave with salary or pay wage. Third is he is absent due to temporary disablement caused by accident arising in the course of his employment. Fourth is maternity leave. Fifth one is a general clause that reads the employee was ready and willing to work, but for reasons beyond his control was not able to work. So this is a general clause key. If an employee is ready and willing to work, but it is beyond his control that he was not able to work, then such service period will also not be taken into account for reducing the bonus. Now, one or two more points that we need to keep in mind for Bonus Act, as per Bonus Act 1965, is that the bonus should be paid within 8 months from the end of the financial year. And the bonus should be paid in cash or check. That is, the employee cannot be given, let's say, a gift, for example, a pair of shoes, and said, this is your bonus, take this. It should be paid by cash or check. So broadly, we have covered the provisions of Payment of Bonus Act. Now we'll quickly go through the West Bengal Profession Tax Act 2. Now friends, we move forward and look at the persons who are liable to take P-tax registration. Let's read. Every employer who is liable to pay P-tax on behalf of his employees, whom he pays salary or wages in the taxable limit, is liable to obtain a certificate of registration. So what is the taxable limit? Let's see according to the slabs here. Above rupees 8,500 up to rupees 10,000, no liability to deduct P-tax. Above 10,000 up to 15,000, yes, 110 rupees. Above 15,000 up to 25,000, 130. Above 25,000 up to 40,000, 150, and above 40,000, 200 rupees. Now logically, if you see the taxable limit is above rupees 10,000, so logically our answer should be ki if an employer pays salary above rupees 10,000, then you would be liable to take P-tax registration under West Bengal State Act. But practically we see there is a screen whenever we apply for P-tax enrollment, we get a screen review ki if the salary is above rupees 8,500, then you are liable to take P-tax registration too. So I'm keeping the view at 8,500 only. That is, if an employer pays salary above rupees 8,500 to any of its employee, he would be liable to take P-tax registration. Meaning of salary or wage for the purpose of T-tax is very gross. It includes each and everything, whether it be DA, basic pay, DA, or perquisites of any kinds. It will include all the entitlements that an employee is receiving from the employer. Let's quickly read at the due dates for payment of tax. The Act says for the first 11 months, the due date would be the 21st day of the succeeding month. That is, for the month of June or July, for the month of June, the due date for pre-tax payment would be 21st July. First 11 months means April to Feb. So what about the last month, the month of March? What is the due date? The Act says the tax should be paid before furnishing of return. Suppose if the employer furnishes before 21st, that is by 10th of April, if the employer furnishes his return, then the due date would be before furnishing of his annual return, that is the 10th April, and likewise. So what is the due date for annual return? The due date for annual return would be the 30th April of the previous financial year, that is 30 days from the expiry of the financial year. So these are few of the things that we need to keep in mind for pre-tax statutory compliances. So with this, more or less, we have covered the first two acts, and in the next video, we will be going through the PF Act and look at some of the other provisions from income tax point of view that might be applicable for employees. And friends, if you found the video informative, please do share, and also stay tuned with the channel CARE for more informative and professional videos. Thank you.